All right, good evening. My name is Ian Blackburn. It's 7 o'clock and it's time for Zoom into wine and learn about wine. We come together to create an event tonight called Heroes of Cabernet. Each week, Wednesday night, 7 o'clock, we get together with great people, talk about a different grape variety, different wineries, different regions, kind of give you a really nice overview of our topicality and hopefully push things along in your wine pursuits, maybe giving you a little insights, sharing some different ideas. And we do it all live. We do it with you. This is your Zoom. We want you to be a part of it. We want you to be active. There's a little chat box down at the bottom. You can get involved in reviewing the wines with me and sharing your comments. We're going to taste some really beautiful stuff tonight. So let's get started with our presentation, The Heroes of Cabernet. Hopefully everybody got your little tasting sheet that we email out. We created a little tasting sheet for you, a little brochure. Each of those were emailed out to you guys, so you can find those if you like. But I'm going to guide you with our PowerPoint presentation tonight and take you through a whole bunch of stuff. All right, we're going to start off with wine number one. This is the Method Cabernet Sauvignon, which there are two different iterations of. There is a Napa Valley iteration at approximately $35 to $40, I think, is the APV for that. So this is the California version. It is, as you're going to learn from Master Sommelier Ian Cobble, basically a single vineyard that I believe is owned by the BECKSTOFFER family in Lake County. And he was able to get his hands on quite a bit of volume and deliver something at a price point that's just really outstanding. It's been critically well reviewed, and I think you're really going to enjoy our first wine at its, and you just, as you taste it, just appreciate that this wine's under $20. And I think it's really a pretty and delicious and sincere wine. And Ian Cobble is quite the guy to stand behind it. This is his baby. He is a master somm. He's an incredible entrepreneur, and I really enjoyed interviewing him. We got about 6 minutes with Ian. Go ahead and taste wine number one as he starts to talk about it, and we'll get together right after we're done. Heroes of Cabernet bring us together with some great personalities, and I am so stoked to be able to introduce you to Ian Cobble. Ian is a legend up in Napa Valley, a master somm, starred in the movie Somm, and has a number of different projects in the works, and a really busy guy. So thanks for making time to talk about the method, Ian.
Cheers. Yeah, thanks for having me.
But tell us about Ian Cobble and how you became a wine guy, and about the method.
Well, I grew up in Huntington Beach, California. Like you, we actually went to the same high school, Marina High School. Go Vikings. But my sisters went up to Sonoma State University, right in the heart of the wine country, just northwest of Napa, where I live now. And I went and visited them when I was 16 and partook in all great things North Coast. So everything from the Humboldt Fog cheese to the Frog's Leap Merlot that I tasted, everything that I had up here just was so delicious. And there's something different about being in the wine country. Everything just tastes better. A lot of these organically farmed fruits and vegetables and incredibly sustainable meats, et cetera, just bring a lot of happiness to your taste buds. And when you're living life through your senses, you find that eating and drinking in the wine country kind of brings you more happiness than most things do. So after I graduated from Sonoma, I ended up going to Sonoma State because of that experience, played tennis at the school, and then made some money teaching tennis and took off to Portugal for a wine job, and I made $2 an hour working for the oldest port house in Portugal, the company Avelia, also called Royal Oporto in English. And then I took off from there and traveled through Spain, teaching kids tennis, kind of perfecting my Spanish on clay courts, which is always interesting, speaking Spanish in school versus actually teaching a kid how to hit a tennis racket, how to hit a tennis ball is a little different. Ended up going back through North Africa, India, and Europe over the next year and a half. Got home with no money and borrowed $150 from my dad to borrow a suit, to buy a suit from Macy's on sale, and went into the wine merchant of Beverly Hills and interviewed with Dennis Overstreet and got a job there. And he let me have, I'm a little bit more normal in real life, I promise, not being edited down. But with that said, it was a great experience, and it gave people a little bit of insight to how serious some of us take the world of wine, because there is so much to know, and there's so much passion and so much to be learned and enjoyed of every single corner of the world, whether you're talking about the high elevations of Switzerland or the volcanic soils of Mount Etna. Yeah. But other than that, let's discuss the method. Cabernet Sauvignon. This is method coming from. This is the white label. We have white label. We also have a black label. The white label is an incredible value, under $20 retail, balanced wine that tastes a lot like Valley Floor Cabernet Sauvignon. Doesn't quite have as deep of a complexity of Oakville or St. Helena, for example, but we were looking to make, we had a black label Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, which I'm actually have here, but we have a white label that we wanted to make to allow for glass pours, say the $15 glass pours around the restaurant scene in LA, around Napa. We wanted people to have an accessible price point to be able to drink on a Monday night with a burger, or this actually pairs well with anything. And in a blind tasting, the white label from the Red Hills, appellated as California, but it drinks very much like a Napa Cabernet.
Absolutely. I got to taste it again this morning when we were getting ready with jars. We're taping this on a Monday. Our show will run on Wednesday, and it's drinking really pure, really focused. I was in love with their 2020. I sold a lot of that wine. We're going to sell a lot of this one as well. And when the 23, which you're bottling right now, comes in the market, we'll pick up the Napa SKU as well. So these are really made with some great vineyards behind them. Ian's really connected with what's happening up there, and he's able to get his hands on some juice from some great places. A lot of them he can't even tell you where he's getting the juice from, but he's able to pull it together, put it in the bottle, and offer it for a really aggressive price. And that's what we've got.
And you'll notice one thing about our wines, that there's not a lot of oak. For me, one of the things that plagues a lot of the wines of the world, that they have too much oak. I want to drink wine. I don't want to drink an oak barrel. I don't want an over influence of, I always joke, it smells like Home Depot aisle 9, which is the wood section of, it sounds like somebody just cut a piece of wood. I don't want my oak dominating the wine. Wine should smell like Cabernet Sauvignon, or whatever grape it is, should be the first smell. And it should be these complex grape notes from fermented grapes, not the oak barrel. For me, that's the biggest part of it. And as a sommelier who's worked in restaurants for a long time, not anymore, thankfully. I actually have off Christmas and Thanksgiving now. But as you know, it's a tough life.
You earned that.
Yeah, I did. But with that said, having wines that go well with food, and I don't think an oak tree goes well with flavors on the plate. Oak should be very balanced. So same with fruit and acidity, like all of these things, just like an orchestra. You shouldn't have too much cowbell if you've ever seen that SNL skit.
Sure.
With that said, everything in balance. And at the end of the day, we all have different taste buds, and I'm not saying that people who like really oaky wines, I'm not saying you're wrong or I'm right. I just know that I enjoy wines that technically have a little bit lower oak percentage. A lot of the wines that I like are 10 to 20% new oak, and sometimes no new oak. 100% new oak for Romani Conti, that's fine, because they use the right barrels, they have the right vineyards and everything at the final at the final stage, the wines are in balance, and that's really what it's all about.
Well, I appreciate you making time to talk to us about method. This 2022 just came in the market. I don't think it's going to be here for very long. This is a great value, and the 2023 is being bottled right now as well. So when that 23 comes in, we'll be a supporter as well, because 2022 was a more challenging harvest. 2023 is going to be celebrated as one of our greatest. But I'm telling you, you knocked it out of the park with a great, delicious, pure Cabernet. I loved your comments about wood, and finding something at this price point that has innate qualities to it. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, you know, and the critics appreciate it also, which is always great. I'm not a huge points guy, but to see that friends of mine have given it a huge score for the price point, I mean, that's awesome to see other people give you the nod, because we just make this because we like to drink it, and we think it's a great value. But it's always nice when other people appreciate it as well, including yourself. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and for doing this with us. Appreciate you very much, and continued success.
Cheers, brother.
Man, hope to see you soon. Ian Cobble, that was really fun. We've known each other through electronics for a long time, because sometimes people would email me thinking they were talking to him. I'd send him a message, vice versa. And so we got to spend about a half hour hanging out before we finally got down to taping. A really smart and ambitious guy. And he has a new product called the Wine Key that he's just getting rolling. And you'll be hearing more about that. He's going to come back and do something else with us real soon. Hope you enjoyed the wine. It's a really nice little bottle, $15. I think it is exactly what you would hope it could be, and really varietally correct, very pure, not trying to be too contrived. You know, a lot of $15 bottle wines, $15 a bottle of wine you'd put in your mouth, and you could almost feel the synthetic things holding it together, or you know, American wood, heavy, almost like a piece of wood in your mouth, because these wines aren't given a lot of time in the wood, so they don't really incorporate the wood very well. He's done the right thing, keeping the wood very minimized, and I think really showcasing a pretty damn good quality vineyard that everybody knows is making some good stuff. But just the appellation, Lake County, nobody knows where that's at. And it is just a little north of Napa Valley, and a big source of fruit for a lot of producers that are not going to make a Napa appellated. And just a trivia question for you. When you make a bottle of wine, 100% of it, what's the minimum percentage of wine? If you're going to make a Napa Valley wine, what's the minimum percentage that has to be from the Napa Valley in that bottle of wine? Do you know the answer? The answer is
5%, isn't it?
75% has to be from the Napa Valley. So you can believe that there's a lot of people using Lake County to fill up that other 25%, just from a cost standpoint. When your Napa Valley cab average price per ton is, you know, north of 8, probably closer to $9,000 per ton, then you can go to, you know, a nice vineyard up in Lake County and use some fruit. I'm going to guess what this fruit sells for. It's probably between $4,000 and $5,000 a ton from Lake County, about half the price, and maybe even less, depending on what vineyard you're buying it from, etc. I'm sure if BECKSTOFFER's putting his name on it, he's going to try to get extra for that. But hope you enjoyed. That wine just came into stock. You'll see that out there in a number of places here and there. for a moment, because that price point will move through fairly quickly, and we'll be into the 23.
Yes, nicely balanced too, don't you think?
Hey, Lauren. Yes, I do. I really do think so. I think it's got all the right pieces and in the right proportion, and the quality marks are there. I think it's really well done. Good to have you on the Zoom tonight, Lauren. Lauren,
Yeah,
move.
I'm curious. I get a little bit of milk chocolate or chocolate, kind of like I do on certain camises. I was wondering, do you know what causes that? What gives it that character?
Uh, there may be something a little bit more technical than what I'm going to say, to a lab rat that would lead you towards chocolate, but that's just part of the varietal, big reds like Zinfandel, Syrah, Cabernet. They have this kind of through line that can be displayed as almost like a chocolatey or dark chocolate, maybe some coffee elements. Those are just very characteristic of the grape variety. Maybe, sometimes you'll get a little help from the wood because a lot of vanilla in wood, but here that's not the case. It's just innate to Cabernet Sauvignon. And if you break down Cabernets, the expectation of a good Cabernet, I think a little dark chocolate is part of that descriptive set. Cassis, um, maybe I call them spa aromas, kind of eucalyptus, mint. You might get it's a little graphite, a little gravel. Those are some of the markers. Certainly in the Napa nose, you might get a little dustiness. Some things that kind of help point where it's from. But this wine just carries the idea of nice ripe fruit. I think it does smell and taste very California. Um, it's not trying to be a Bordeaux, but there's good polish there, and again, that length and tension kind of are some quality marks that I think you would see in higher end wine. All right, we've talked enough about the method. We're going to move on to wine number 2. Thank you.
Here's a Cabernet.
Oh, here's the slide. $15. You also get 10% off on this wine when you order it tonight with the code in the email, and you'll get reminded of that code before the show is over. We're going to go now down to Argentina, where I just recently returned. I took a group to Argentina. In fact, I took a group to VIñA COBOS. But I already knew I was going to use this wine before I visited COBOS and before the Wine Spectator put it in the top 100. This has been just a really nice go-to wine that, Paul Hobbs makes some really expensive wines. And this is not one of them. This is his kind of value, and it kind of bends over backwards. COCODRILO. And I'm not sure if our video, I don't want to say the same things twice. So I'm going to play the video first, and then I'll make some other comments because I hate to be redundant. So here we go with a little video about this wine.
The heroes of Cabernet. We're talking about Cabernet from around the world and showing some really excellent examples. Recently, I was very fortunate, was able to take a group to Argentina, to VIñA COBOS, which is owned by Paul Hobbs. And we tasted COCODRILO, which I've been carrying for a while, but I continue to be reminded this is such an amazing little wine, a great value. And so I wanted to talk about it again now. The 2021 vintage is here, and we have the ultimate expert with us today. His name is Carlos de Carlos, and he is the international sales director for Paul Hobbs' portfolio worldwide. I'm not even sure he knows what time zone we're in right now, but we are excited to have you here, Carlos. Thank you so much for giving us a minute to talk about the COCODRILO.
Come on, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me and for considering COCODRILO among your selected group of wines for this month.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We have a little slideshow I'll take us through. There's a look at the bottle. What does COCODRILO mean?
Yeah, COCODRILO is a good story because at the very beginning of VIñA COBOS, we used to name varietals with different animals. So felino, that is the Andean cat, it was Malbec. Cocodrilo represented Cabernet from Argentina, that means crocodile in Spanish. And then we had a bird from the Andes Mountains that was representing Chardonnay at the time. But in time, the introduction to VIñA COBOS became felino entirely. So all the three varietals. And then people started to claim what happened with COCODRILO, with the crocodile, because it was so famous for VIñA COBOS. So Paul had the dream of producing a high quality Cabernet blend, Bordeaux Argentina blend. So we decided to call it COCODRILO because the influence or the majority of the blend coming from Cabernet Sauvignon.
We're in Mendoza. I just, being at the property, we've got some amazing views to show you. Optimal Lojan de Cuyo, yeah?
Yes. The viticulture in Argentina started around Luján de Cuyo, that is the area surrounding the city of Mendoza. And it's very natural because as you visited us, you realize that the climate in Argentina is very dry, almost semi-desertic. So we had to irrigate to grow. And it was very natural that the viticulture and the first vines were planted on the river side of River Mendoza. And that is the case of VIñA COBOS that you are seeing now in the picture, that is in the southern part of River Mendoza in a sub-appellation that is called Agrelo. And Agrelo today is best known as the most important source for high-quality Cabernet from Argentina. So the best Cabernets from Argentina come from Agrelo, and some of the eldest vines of Cabernet are planted in that area. In particular, in our winery, we have vineyards up to 100 years old of Cabernet.
Beautiful, beautiful. I went quickly by the slide just because I wanted people to see this shot as you're talking about the location. But COBOS has been around for a while and has developed an amazing reputation. We also carry many other wines from not only COBOS, but Paul Hobbs internationally throughout our store. But I was surprised. Does that say 1988?
Yeah, the winery started in 1998.
98. That's a typo then. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that old. Okay. So 1990. Yeah. Wow. That's still old. In terms of Argentine wine, that's a boom.
Yeah. But Paul has been in Mendoza since 1988. So it's right. He spent 10 years before founding VIñA COBOS consulting different wineries. He became one of the most important consultants and sort of father of quality Malbec in Argentina. So yes, 1988 is an important date for him as a person in Argentina.
This winery has continued to be developed. The interior of the winery looks like the most organized, cleanest, most well-run winery, anywhere. I think the standards are usually pretty high.
Yes, well, in Paul Hobbs wineries, considering all the joint ventures as well, that are all the wineries that belong to Paul and are outside the United States, we have very strict protocols, and we use the same protocols to the ones that we have in the United States. So we are very world-class standards. And I think that was one of the main influences of Paul in Argentina. So when he came to Argentina, he found out that the vineyards were beautiful, the soils were very, very nice. And because the climate is so dry, you could control the yielding of the vines. But then a lot of work had to be done in terms of improving the quality of farming and also improving the quality of our cellars and our wineries to be able to produce world-class wines. And I think that is probably the biggest influence of Paul in the whole Argentina industry, because he managed to work with people very closely to farm the vineyards very differently, and also to work in the cellars in a very different way. And that make a huge step up for the quality of the wines produced in Argentina, and probably VIÑA COBOS is a leading in that angle. Since the very beginning, we started from very humble origins, only $70,000. So we had to be hosted in other wineries. But soon we realized that we had to build our own winery, the one that you see in the pictures that is in the foothills of the Andes, because we needed to control the quality of the process. So it was not enough to produce very high quality grapes and manage them properly, harvesting even by night, because we were pioneers in harvesting by night in Argentina to preserve the quality of the grapes and get them intact from the vineyard to the winery. But then when the grapes arrive into the winery, we had to process them in gravity flow, in small tanks, with very clean tanks, very clean barrels, with very clear protocols and unique processes depending on the origin. And that had to be done in our own facilities. We couldn't do that in third-party facilities. So that pushed us to have our own winery.
This wine that we're tasting together is a Cabernet-based blend. And if you asked me, today, 2024, some of the most exciting, innovations in wine in Argentina are the elevation of single vineyard Cabernet Francs, which are a big part of this wine as well. Of course, the legendary Malbec. So all the good parts of what you're doing are blended here to make this COCODRILO. And 94 points is a significant score for a wine of this price. And I'm certain that people will enjoy this at a very high level. We have carried this wine, this SKU, for multiple vintages. 21 as far as a vintage, another excellent year.
Yes, Ian, thank you so much. I think what is interesting of COCODRILO in general is that there are not so many high quality expressions of Cabernet. Argentina has dedicated a lot of efforts in producing high quality Malbecs in different locations, in different altitudes, as you said. But Paul, with his knowledge of Cabernet, he tried to explore Cabernet, but not only pure Cabernet, but also blending it as it was in the origin of the Bordeaux blends.
Carlos, I thank you so much for giving us a little insight. I hope to meet you in person when you're ever in Los Angeles. And thank you for your time today.
It's my great pleasure, Ian, and I hope your customers enjoy COCODRILO. It's a very fresh expression of Cabernet from Argentina. It's very tight. It's like linear, quite vertical.
Beautiful. Well, we'll taste it right now, and I'll get back some comments to you.
Very kind of you, Ian.
Well, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are of COCODRILO. I really do think that this wine is a little bit more complex and has some different personalities to it. The altitude of Mendoza, those are the Andes Mountains that you can see everywhere when you're in Mendoza. And you're in Mendoza, it's probably around 3,000 to 3,500 feet in elevation right there in Lojan de Coyo. And the mountains are just literally that big. They're so vast. And it's one of the more amazing things you could ever see. Is just these gigantic mountains with snow from head to toe. But I do hope you enjoy this blend. And we'll get to the next slide so we can talk about the price as well.
Akira,
$34.95. A real solid value proposition. You're not going to find a lot of this, unfortunately, in the restaurants. There might be a few, but it would be nice to have it in a restaurant. You probably pay around $70 a bottle. And I think that's a good deal with all the Argentine beef steaks, steakhouse type stuff. This is a really good find on a wine list. It's something that you can count on. Paul Hobbs' name at a really decent, reasonable price. It's mostly sold to small off-premise stores like myself, and but you get lucky and you find it out there in a good spot. I hope you'll consider it. I really do enjoy this wine. Moving along into wine number 3, and LOPAI.
Heroes of Cabernet lets me talk to some great producers around the topic, the idea of Cabernet Sauvignon. And we have traveled high and low all over the great state of California with this particular project. And now we're going to look inside of Paso Robles with a great up-and-coming producer. I want you all to know about LOPAI. And we're with Mr. Lopez, Paul Lopez, and his son, Brian Lopez. They own LOPAI. Welcome to the Heroes of Cabernet, Paul.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to talk about, you got so much going on, and it's a really cool story. You and your son started LOPAI. I need to know a little bit more about the background, so this interview will be very insightful for us, but I got to taste your wine with you, I don't know, about a year ago. And it really kind of set me back. I wasn't necessarily looking for a Cabernet blend from Paso Robles, but when I taste your wine, I love how different it is. I love the unique angle that you're taking. But what got you excited about Paso? How did you guys get started? All that.
I've been around Paso since about 1980. I think there were just 6 wineries back then. And I was working the grocery business and fresh produce, retired in 2010. And prior to that, probably the last 10 years, I'd been helping friends here and there with wineries. I was making a little bit of wine at home. I started with Chris Cherry late 2010 after a trip to Bordeaux, and kind of got the bug there, just making the wines in a bigger facility like that, even though he's not that big. But really loved Chris. Cherry taught me a lot. He still does to this day, and I appreciate him. From there, I went to help Bob Tillman and Maggie Tillman open the new Altaclina winery they were building. And I was with Bob and Maggie for a little over 4 years as well, and ended up at Denner Vineyards. As I was at Denner Vineyards, we started making the LOPAI wines there. And in 2019 is when my son purchased 71 acres on Vineyard Drive. And we continued to make the wines off that vineyard at Denner.
And you got a new chapter opening up as you guys just bought another wine producer, and you're going to reposition your brand there at Windward Cellars, right?
That's correct. Yeah. Purchase closed in kind of early June, and we've been in the process of remodeling the existing facility. We'll be starting the new tasting room remodeled here probably in the next week or two. And we should have that tasting room open by the first part of March if everything goes well.
Well, Paso is a beautiful place, and the growth in Paso has been tremendous. And I still think it's got, many legs up that, whether it's new brands or established brands, but the communications out of PASO, in what the world's finding out about PASO, I think it's still a very young story, and there is no like PASO wine formula. There's so many new ideas and grape varieties, and you could go in so many different directions, whether it's the Spanish wine direction or potentially Cal Italians, or the Cab angle, the Rhones.
No, I would say the inspiration behind it, even though we love Bandol, Mourvedre, this one was more Spain inspired. The Juan Gil wines, he makes a wine called Clio. He makes other wines as well. Another one called El Nido. The Clio is more of a Monastrell or Spanish clone Mourvedre that excited me the first time I tasted it. It was blended with Cabernet Sauvignon. And that was the thought behind making this wine. I had a great opportunity to pull a couple of tons of Denner fruit, the Cab and the Mourvedre 2019. I only made 4 barrels of it. It became our first bottling for the LOPAI cellars. So yeah, that was the inspiration.
This has got richness and texture and complexity. And I think, because it's not potentially like falling into a category, a reviewer might taste this wine and have to be a little more critical. And you guys are kind of defining something, an idea for PASO that isn't necessarily, sunk in stone. And I think that's a great place to be in. You're maybe part of a spirited evolution. And, maybe the next winemaker that comes along says, I was inspired by the heliotrope. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be.
But in the meantime, we've got this 2019 PASO blend that you and your son have put together, and it is delicious. It is unique. It is nicely priced. You guys got a lot of value here, and you got a up and coming story. How soon will the LOPAI tasting room be ready?
If we're, depends on construction, of course, and some of the rainy weather coming up, but I would venture to say if we can get in late February or first part of March, we'll be sending some emails out and letting people know, possibly some social media. We're very excited about it. We're sharing that project with Anthony Yunt from Denner Vineyards and also Royal Nunsuch Farm. He has been an inspiration not only for me, but my son as well, especially on the vineyard side. Anthony's so versed in both of those sides. So yeah, I would hope by at least the first part of March. Yeah.
Well, when it's ready, please let us know, and we're going to make some noise for you. And I'll of course be up there to visit with you. And I want to see everything else that you've got going on. I'm going to taste your wine now with our audience. Is there anything you want us to pay attention to? Anything about the production of this wine that we can really kind of talk about and take to the next level?
I think this wine, what I was most excited about is the texture of this wine. I think it shows what's interesting to me is when we were tasting barrels, we taste the barrels at 6 months in, we taste another 6 months in, and each time we tasted it, the Cabernet would take over. The next time we tasted it, it was Mourvedre. So it just kind of evolved in the bottle as well, doing the same thing, which excites me because it doesn't seem like some linear wine. And there's a little touch of Cab Franc at the end there. I think it just needed something in the middle, and that's where that Cab Franc came in. But I think you'll find that if anyone purchases 1 or 2 or 3 bottles and they put a couple to the side, remember, take some notes each time you taste it and see if it changes on you like that.
We'll carry your wines with pride and look forward to discovering the next chapter.
Ian, thank you for your support of the wines, and look forward to doing more. We'll share more with you when we have more to release.
Awesome. You take care.
All right, cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Really nice people. Lot to be proud of. The wine's delicious. They just bought the Windward Winery from really good friends of mine. He's looking for a way to retire at Windward, pushing 90 years old. And so finding someone to buy the property is an awesome thing for him. And they're going to be great stewards, really well liked in the area. And this wine is just so delicious. And I like it also maybe for a different reason. It's just because it does come across a little uniquely. And believe me, and that's not easy to pull off. And sometimes it may even throw people off and say, oh, it's different. I don't know. Because you kind of, you're going to buy a Cabernet, you might, there's a little bit of a sameness expectation that maybe dulls the category down a little bit. But I think this wine really pushes into some unique areas. I like the nose, I like the mouth, and the concentration is really hefty. I think it drinks really neat, and that would be a lot of fun just to have it with a nice meal and be able to partake pretty handily. Lauren, what were your comments there, buddy? I know you got the tasting kit here.
Yes, hello, everybody from Chicago. Actually, this is really unique that I'm able to do this, but I was passing through LA yesterday, so I picked up the kit. Yeah, no, I have tasting notes from Peter Neptune. He's a master som. I took WSET 3 with him. And the one thing is really unique in his wine is he points out, he says it's dried strawberry. Does anybody else get the strawberry on the nose?
Definitely an array of red fruits, and I think yeah, I'm totally getting where you're getting that strawberry component. The red fruit is really prevalent throughout the nose and the mouth, and it's a beautiful through line on this wine. It makes it different in so many different ways.
And that's not the cab. That's coming from the Mourvedre.
Yeah, it is probably a big component coming from, because red fruits aren't exactly the first thing you typically get from a Cabernet unless it's pretty softly ripened, so that Mourvedre is definitely making the red fruit part push forward a little bit. Mr. Morris, everything good with you, sir?
Oh, very, very good. Enjoyed the wine. It was, like Lauren said, when I first tasted it though, I was going, this doesn't seem like a normal Paso Robles cab. And then when I saw that it had Mourvedre in there and it's going, to me, I thought maybe the Mourvedre was adding sort of that red fruit, strawberry essence, but I thought it was really extremely well integrated into it. It wasn't what I expected with a cab, but still a very nice wine. So liked it.
Awesome. Lisa, are you tasting with us tonight?
Interesting question. I had a little of the first one when I had
Okay.
a little of the last one. That apparently doctor's orders I'm not really supposed to be tasting at the moment.
Okay, we won't tell anybody. Well, I really enjoy it, and I enjoyed meeting him and his demeanor, his explanations, and I taste a lot of Paso wines, and to find something that stands out like this one, I think is really fun. So it is a little different expression. I hope you enjoyed it as part of our journey into Cabernet tonight. As we're talking about the heroes of Cab, we're going to keep going. We got more to accomplish. I am 3 days back from Barolo,
and it feels like it's 4 in the morning for me. So I'm going to try to keep my energy high and try not to say anything. I might stutter or stammer a little bit because I've got some serious jet lag going on. But that's all because I had such a good time. Before we go to the next wine, just remember the next week is Barolo versus Brunello. And check out the wine list. It's on the website. Some really cool wines. We're going to do it in a really fun way. And hopefully you guys can join us. It's the season of the bees, the big bees, Barolo and Brunello. And then coming up in January, I just went on this crazy trip to Europe. So we spent the first week we were there between Paris and Champagne, kind of celebrating a milestone. My wife and I married 14 years, and we kind of always push off our anniversaries and don't go maybe to dinner that night and things like that. So we just kind of saved up our pennies and we did something kind of special for ourselves and went and stayed at a beautiful hotel, went up to Champagne, made some great appointments. And one of the places we went is Guy Charlemagne. And so we're going to be interviewing the winemaker from Guy Charlemagne. And in January, we're going to ship bottles. Lauren, you can do this easily because it's going to be a bottle shipment. We could ship that bottle now. Well, we might have to ship it now, Lauren, because it's going to get cold in Chicago. But you can do the half bottle or you could do the full bottle. And I got a really nice price on it. So check it out because this is Grand Cru, Lemonnier, Blanc de Blanc. And this is a brand you're going to want to watch. 2 daughters just took it over from their dad, Guy, and they're going to take it to the next level. But I've always liked this wine. And now that I've met the family, I'm going to be rooting for them. Literally, as you're pulling out of the driveway of their house, you have a compulsion to just keep going straight because right across the street, 12 feet away, is Salon Champagne. So they're in the right neighborhood, and these guys can really impress you. Wine number 4. This is a wine that I love to show off. It is kind of the little wine that could. I'm going to guess that some of you are going to pick it as your favorite wine tonight. And if it feels like we're a little smaller this evening than maybe you expected, it's because quite a few of our kits are still out there being delivered. So a number of people emailed us and said, delivery didn't make it yet. I think UPS is getting a little overwhelmed this holiday. And so I saw the delivery times on some of these kits. They're still out there delivering. One of the kits is probably being delivered about right now, and another one is being delivered about 10 o'clock tonight. So I don't know. It's an interesting day. So we're recording this session so our friends can watch it later. But we're with ALTAMURA now, and this is just a great producer to know about. So let's get with the winemaker, Giancarlo Altamura. He's the next generation, and he's got some cool things to say.
Heroes of Cabernet, I get to bring some fantastic winemaker personalities to the screen, and I'm super excited to introduce you all to Giancarlo Altamura. Good morning, Giancarlo, or good evening, because we're going to be doing this on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. But we always record these a couple of days in advance, and it's great to meet you today, Giancarlo.
Great to meet you. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I'm going to go into our slideshow. Now, you are the son of Frank and Karen Altamura, legends in the Napa Valley. You guys have so much going on. We're going to get to that in a minute. We are in the Napa Valley. I've come to learn that you've got a 400-acre estate right about here. Probably doesn't look that big from the sky, but it's it sounds pretty giant.
Yeah, so we've actually had the property in our family on my mom's side since 1855. And it was mainly a cattle orchard kind of property, pretty much just living off the land. And then my mom inherited it in the late 1970s, early 1980s, where her and my father kind of decided to plant some grapes and mainly just sell those grapes to wineries that he had worked at throughout the valley. He worked in the mid 70s at places like Trefethen, Camus, Sterling. He really had no formal education in college, but he really just kind of worked at these great wineries with some great winemakers like Charlie and Chuck Wagner, Rick Foreman. And he really learned how to do the winemaking by just being there every day. So when they got the property and they planted the grapes, it just kind of made sense to just sell these grapes initially to places that he had worked at. And kind of like every winemaker story, you sell 90% of it and you keep 10% behind and you kind of make your own and sell to friends and family. And 40 some odd years later, now we're not buying or selling anything off the property.
Wow. So you're using all the 65 acres that you have planted, and what is that netting you guys as a brand? Is that like 10,000 cases?
So we're a little bit unusual up here for sure, because we're right below Atlas Peak and we're about an 800 to 1,000 foot elevation from the valley floor. So the 65 acres that is planted of the 400, 50-ish is probably the Cabernet. And we do something a little bit different in the sense that about 80 to 85% of everything planted, we are dry farmed. So we don't do any irrigation whatsoever. We've got heavy clay soils. So a lot of the rainfall, a lot of that moisture is just kept for a long period of time. In turn, though, that means usually our quantity is a lot less, but our quality is very high. So we're usually right around 4,000 to 5,000 cases total for everything, and 3,000 to 3,500 cases of Cabernet alone.
Very good. You guys make some delicious Sauvignon Blanc. You make some amazing Sangiovese. But today we're talking about the Cabernet, and you guys, you just kind of laid it all out there why you are so good at this. Your father worked with so many top producers, some of the favorite, inspirational winemakers of the time, Rick Foreman, Charlie Wagner, and, had the interconnectivity. Every time I taste your wine amongst its peers, it kind of pops up as like, wow, that Altamura is awesome. And I don't think you guys get enough credit.
We're a very small family winery. It's just my dad and I make all the wines. I do all the vineyard management. My brother does all the tech stuff, and my mom does a lot of the bookkeeping. So we're a very small, tight family group. And, we really kind of learned just how to do winemaking by making sure everything comes into the winery from the vineyards very clean, very, ripe at the exact same time, and nothing is too far one way or the other. So it's very easy to make great wine out of good grapes, but it's very hard to make great wine out of bad grapes. So we really try to make sure the winemaking is done in about 90% of the winemaking is done outside in the vineyard by making sure the plants are healthy, they're green, and they're very, very, full of energy and everything as well.
How old is the vineyard now?
So I remember planting them as a kid, and we've kind of done some replanting over the years, but they range anywhere from probably 28 to 22 years old, give or take, and they are producing great wines right now. I'm going to be replanting some probably in the next couple years here because of my labor versus what I'm getting out of them is kind of not being as equal. But we really want to make sure that the root systems in all these vines is extremely healthy so that the canopy and the growth of them is even, consistent, and produces some great grapes for the future.
Well, we're going to taste the 2019 with the group now. Is there anything that you like to point out as, some of your hallmark characteristics?
So I would say for all of our Cabernets, they go into 70% new French oak and 30% one-year-old French oak for about 3 years. And after that, we bottle it and let it bottle age for about a year before releasing it. So the 2019 was a great year. We had a lot of rainfall. It was a very kind of great growing and ripening season up and through September and even into October when we picked. And we don't do any kind of single vineyard Cabernets. We just do one estate Cabernet to kind of give the consumer, you know, an example of what our vineyard and wineries can do, and keeping it very simple for them. So the 2019 Cabernet, we think, has a very luscious, good front, a very solid mid, and then a nice tannic finish without being too tannic where it kind of sucks the moisture out of your face. So we really try to encourage and, you know, have the wine with food, have it with friends and family, because it's meant to be enjoyed. And hopefully, you know, a bottle or two is open during your event at home or whatever it is.
Thank you. And 96 points, the Wine Independent, a wonderful review. Talks about tree bark, black truffles, dried herb, Indian spices, stewed plums, red currant jelly,
Yes.
boysenberries, tobacco leaf. That's whenever you have a description that has this many mentions to it, that's because there's a lot of complexity in the wine. And really, that's because you guys have figured out how to tap your vineyard and make it really a great expression. And I'm pretty sure everyone's going to absolutely adore this wine. Price value is very strong with Altamura. We're moving into an era where a $200 Napa cab is kind of becoming the norm, and you guys are sitting about 140 at the tasting room. We're about 132.95, you know, from our website. You guys have an active tasting room in Yountville, right?
Well, not really anymore because we just had the restaurant Chichio, but our taste room is up at the property itself, located on Wooden Valley Road, and we just do private tastings. I do the weekend tastings, but we've got a wonderful woman named Monica that does the weekday tastings.
Well, it's a great little spot, highly recommended by me. Love the energy there. And you'll be seeing us at Chichio soon. I thank you for your time today. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you again. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out. No problem. That's absolutely.
Let's try to send some people your way. Anybody watching this video, you want an appointment at Altamura, you let me know and we'll try to get you there.
Thank you again for your time, and I appreciate everything.
Thanks, Giancarlo. You have a good day.
You too.
Yeah, if you're going to wine country, I'd love to turn you on to some of the folks that I get to talk to and work with. And they love seeing guys, gals like you, people that are passionate about wine, want to know more, and want to kind of help be part of the story, sharing the story and caring about the story. I think those are important things.
Heroes of Cabernet. I get to bring.
So Altamura, this is the 19 vintage. I've had this wine 3 years in a row in the store, 17, 18, 19. This is my favorite of the three. 19 is a really good vintage. 19 and 21 have a lot of similar characteristics to them, both on the smaller side of the harvest spectrum and really kind of smaller, but maybe more elevated. I think this wine has a great window ahead of it to, you know, you can put some of this down. But this thing is so generous now too. It's hard not to drink it right now. And there's, like I said in the notes when I was typing, the weight and the richness. This is what you're paying a little bit more for. You get what you pay for with wine. And it, you know, in Napa Valley, this is like a you know, comparable to probably a second growth Bordeaux. And price point wise, you're right there. And yet there's way more pleasure in this thing than your typical Bordeaux. This is really solid. And we were mentioning Chichio, the restaurant. It's just a great little Italian find in Yountville, right down the street from the French Laundry. And it's also a good place to go have a bottle of Altamura. Any questions or comments before I move on? one more commercial. We've got a really fun dinner coming up. We did sell this one out. 1982 versus 2005. Look at the wine list. We're going to be drinking Cheval Blanc, Dom Perignon, Lafite, Latour, Margaux, and multiple other vintages as well. So this one sold out, but our next one in January just got one up for sale today. DRC and Friends, and we've also got a really special champagne gathering at the end of December. Check out learnaboutwine.com. The ultimate champagne taste off. Really, the list of wines is crazy, and if you're into champagne, you'll want to be there. As we move into wine number 5, we are now in the big boy league of the top producers, and we have a really fun little interview here with Kirk VENGE. I tell Kirk that my very first trip to the Napa Valley, I was sent to Groth, where his father had just got a 100-point score for the 1985 reserve. His family is like royalty in the Napa Valley. Let's listen to Kirk. Heroes of Cabernet let me talk to some of the greatest winemakers in the wine business. And I am so honored to have Kirk VENGE with us right now. Hi, Kirk.
Hello. Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be able to talk to you about this spectacular VENGE wine. And it is VENGE, not Venge.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But I think you'll probably take it either way, right?
We answer to what, we answered everything. In college, it was Venge, Vengi. It was, everything. So, but yeah, you got it right. Vengi. Mm-hmm.
Well, my very first trip to Napa Valley back when I was a puppy was to visit your father, Niels VENGE. He was the winemaker at Groth. The wine had just gotten a 100-point score, and he was the very first Napa Valley winemaker to get a 100-point score with a 1985 Groth Reserve. So,
yeah. And he's still celebrating that today. He still smiles. He's still happy.
Well, the wine that we're going to talk about here is the VENGE BECKSTOFFER Missouri Hopper 2021. This is a in a Parthenon of wine stuff. This is like the iconic Napa. Like this is your lead story right here. This is prestige all the way down. A great 2021 vintage, a great vineyard designation, and a great winemaker. Kirk VENGE bringing it on. Oakville, one of the, is it 17 appellations now, Kirk?
I think it's 17 or 18 if you add them up. I can't keep track, but there's a new one, every few years there's something else coming out.
So Oakville is like this is the big boy neighborhood right here for the Napa Valley. And Mr. BECKSTOFFER knows his fruit is pretty important and charges accordingly for it, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. I can attest to that. There's no free tonnage, no free lunch with Andy BECKSTOFFER. But it's a great it's a wonderful site, and everyone listening, viewing to this that has been to the Napa Valley will know where this vineyard is. It's near Brick's Restaurant's next door to Mustard's Grill. These are North Yountville properties. If you just look west of those, just look to the mountain, to the west, and that's down low into the south is going to be where Missouri Hopper is. And it's broken into four large blocks. We're in what's called the B block. This is an old clone 337 block. of Cabernet. And I love this site. These are old soldiers. I think they're probably in their young 30s right now, these vines. They're still continuing to thrive. They do an excellent job of growing. You know, I anticipate probably this vineyard the most. Like when you're talking about the champions of what we make and what we put our name on, this is at the top. I've got other vineyard designates with Stagecoach, Annapurna, Bone Ash, my own estate, but BECKSTOFFER Missouri Hopper is right at the top. Also Oakville Ranch. So these are all individual bottlings of ours, but I would put this up against anything that we do every year back to back. It is the most consistent, most structurally complex. It's very correct, this one. I can't tell you enough about how enthusiastic I am every year when this comes across our crush pad, when we make the call to finally harvest and get to make this wine. I pick about 9 tons, something like that, which is about 500 total, 550 total cases a year. Some of that branches into family reserve, where it always got its start from 2012 to 16. And Andy BECKSTOFFER said, no, you don't. You got to put my name on your label. So in 16, we started with a couple hundred cases of this. And now it's grown. You know, we'll produce probably 16 barrels a year, 400 cases, something like that.
The checklist, the cigar box, the tobacco, the cherry cola, and then you put your styling on it, which is, you know, really coaxing it into this delicious corner. Your wines are hard to keep their hands off when they're young. And they're delicious and really wonderfully hedonistic. You can see pieces of the vineyard here as well.
Yeah, that's the shot of the tasting room, the barrel storage, barrel cellar, and the tasting room. But yeah, this is, you know, again, it's a vineyard. What's perfect about this property, Ian, is if you appreciate benchland being at the kind of the corners of where a vineyard valley floor kicks up into the hillside, you get this millennia of washout and erosion and topsoil. And this happens throughout Bordeaux all over the place. You don't notice it's maybe so much, but the great estates have these like little small rises, and these are where these soil mixtures really happen. You get silting and tertiary soils, quaternary soils. But on benchland in Napa Valley, we have you know, a similar thing where silting deposits and new gravels, and you get this breakup of texture, and it's the difference between the stones that makes the wine. This is not a rocky site, but it's also not a heavy clay site. There's great drainage, wonderful airflow. BECKSTOFFER farms it or almost organically, if not completely organically. There's no tillage, herbicides, pesticides. It's very, very natural. And I love, you know, the fine kind of gravel of this soil. It's profound. And so that's what builds great structure, character, color, and it retains its acidity, tannin, and tension.
Pretty tactily stimulating and delicious, concentrated. You're going to get your money's worth. And thank you for making time for us today.
Of course. My pleasure, Ian. Thank you very, very much.
Take care.
You too. Excellent.
Gotta love talking to a legend like Kirk VENGE and drinking this wine with him. Oh, it's so plush and so deep and so rich and so textured, and yet a baby. This is really remarkable stuff. It's $250 a bottle, but really one of the iconic names and vineyard designations, and all the wines that come off of that vineyard wish they were that good. So it's a win-win for everybody that's involved. But this is really the marquee bottling of the House of VENGE. And they make a wine called Family Reserve, but he mentioned it. Put both those on your shopping list. They're really, really good.
Heroes of Cabernet.
Here we are, $250 a bottle, 97-point score. I've got about 5 bottles of this left, I think is where we're at today. So we're
Stunning.
Yeah,
It's
it's
stunning wine.
stunning wine. That is, that is your dream Napa Valley cab right there. And I've tasted that wine up against wines that are 3, 4, 5 times more expensive even, and that one holds its own just remarkably. We're gonna finish with another one. One of my favorite personalities in the Napa Valley is a woman named Celia Welsh. She is so sharp, so technically inclined. A woman who has for years taken the lead away from a lot of the big old school names, and really now I think sits at the very top of the wine industry. Her primary occupation is being the winemaker at Scarecrow. Another wine that she makes, which is quite special, is off of Howe Mountain, and it's called, and you have to use your hand to say it correctly, Castiel. I'm sure I just did that wrong too, but we'll learn from the owners, because they joined me for a video on Monday as well. I was busy, just got back from Barolo, had white truffle on the brain, and they were a really fun interview.
Heroes of Cabernet let us pull together some amazing people to talk about their wine and learn a lot of information about place, the grape. I'm super excited to introduce you guys to David and Kathleen Descaris. Oh, David, I just butchered that name. I'm so sorry.
They used to call me Descaris in high school. It's actually Descaris is how it's pronounced.
All right. It's all Greek to me. Is that Greek?
Sono Italiano.
Italiano, okay. Well, thank you guys for both being here and talking to us about your fantastic wine. Let's try the pronunciation. Castiel.
Yes, very good.
Okay. This is just a magnificent product off of Howe Mountain. What we're looking at, this is a phenomenal bottling off of Howe Mountain, Castiel Estate, Howe Mountain 2021, 99 points, made by famed winemaker Celia Welsh. She is a doll, and she's on vacation traveling the world like she should be. And so the owners of the winery came in to talk to us about their wine. So many great stories here. But let's start off with Howe Mountain, one of the 16 sub-AVAs of the Napa Valley. Is it 16 or 17 now? They just added a new one.
Yeah, they added the
Crystal Springs.
yeah, the Crystal Springs. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
So 17 now.
Is it 17?
I believe so because of the new edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like a lower part of Howe Mountain, right? It's like on your way to Howe Mountain as you're getting up towards 800 feet or higher, which is what you need to be at Howe Mountain. There's a new AVA for that area underneath the 800 feet in elevation. It's called Crystal Springs.
It is. It's 1,400 feet, and so you start at Silverado Trail and you go up from there to 1,400 feet. The difference between Silverado Trail and the 1,400 feet is now the Crystal Springs AVA.
Boom. Got it. So tell everybody about this great story, because having you both here is just such an honor to be able to hear from you both. But you are a one wine winery. This is your baby.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how it all came together.
I'll start with that. So we own 88 acres up on Howe Mountain above the 1,400 foot elevation. And what happened was the property literally fell into our lap. We were meeting with a guy named Jim Barber, who worked at Freemark Abbey prior to when he went out on his own. And Kathleen used to work at Freemark Abbey after Jim was there. So those two hit it off, and Jim said to us, hey, there's this great property up on Howe Mountain, but it's sold. If something comes available, I'll let you know. So we go across the street to a meeting that we had set up with a realtor, and she says, hey, I've got these 3 vineyards I want to show you. They're out in Atlas Peak, Carneros, or whatever. But hey, this raw land just fell out of escrow 10 minutes ago. And it was the exact property Jim Barber had just told us about.
Oh my God.
So I went back across the street and I said, Jim, is this really the property you just told us about? And he said, pay full price for it right now. And so 2 weeks later, we owned 88 acres up on Howe Mountain, and we said, we have to do this. I mean, the property literally found us, right?
Yeah. We had water.
We didn't even know if they had water. But then later, Mark Mondavi water witched it and found us basically what amounts to an underground river.
Yeah.
With a well that does over 300 gallons a minute. So
unbelievable.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. You know, this business, you know, it ebbs and flows. We've been doing it now for 10 years. On the tough days in this business, we remember how lucky we were, how fortunate we were that this property fell into our lap.
Yeah, it really.
Hence the name Castiel, by the way. And Castiel is the angel of good timing.
Aha. Which is where the label themes come from, with the clock dials and the multi-dimensional, like, travel through time type of look and feel.
Yeah, Castiel's the angel of the timing, and we really felt that we were in the exact right place at the right time, and magic happened for us, because it is impossible to find property like we have in Napa. So yeah, the label, it's a clock, it's an astronomical clock, and it tells the story of the life of Castiel from the day Dave and I met 33 years ago in Napa at Freemark Abbey Winery, to the day we found the property, to people who helped us and were instrumental in everything coming together, and time and place. So every single tiny detail on the clock is telling a story about our life together and our journey with Castiel.
So and we could talk about the label for 2 hours, but if you just look at 2 o'clock on the label, there's that circle. That's representative of Kathleen and I coming full circle, starting in Napa, leaving Napa, then coming back to Napa at 2 o'clock, which is the exact time the property fell out of escrow.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So
it was her idea. It was her idea.
That's cool. And what was the first vintage?
2014.
14.
And so you're almost 10 years in. And I've read a little bit about some of the challenges of doing business in the Napa Valley, and I'm sure that those continue. But how's the ride so far? You guys doing okay?
Well, thank you. Thank you for asking. Okay. So yes, we've been trying to put vines on our property for 10 years. And in August of 23, we finally got our 21-acre project approved. It was appealed by a group out of Arizona, and the supervisors literally vetoed that approval. And so we're back to square one, reapplying for a smaller vineyard.
Yep.
It's been difficult. That part's been difficult. But we have a lot of friends on Howe Mountain. A lot of people want to see us succeed. And luckily, we have neighbors that sell us fruit so that we can make this wine. And, you know, we're not allowed to say who, or put in writing who the source is, our major source. I don't know about videos and stuff, so I probably shouldn't say, but.
Sure.
A great source.
It's a name everybody.
Yeah.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
See, and the wine part of it has been an absolute joy.
It really has.
So many incredible people. It's a passion that we have really just had a beautiful time with. So,
and normally it's the opposite. You know, the wine could be a little bit more difficult, the vineyard's a little more fun, but for us, it's been the exact opposite. And frankly, having Celia on the team, you know, we lucked into her too.
Yeah.
You know, she was making Jim's wine, and Jim said, you know what, let's work together and we'll turn you over to Celia. And Celia agreed to take us, and that was the best thing that happened to this project.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on, that's a dream, right?
It is. And the best part is we get to drink it too. Well,
Absolutely. Is it 100% Cabernet?
yes.
It is, yes. And you'll find this interesting just for your audience. There are a number of different clones of Cabernet, and each has its own little different little characteristics. And so what Celia will do is she'll do different harvest dates, do multiple passes to get different characteristics from different clones. It's all barreled separately, and we do have some role in it, but it's 98% Celia kind of making all that happen and deciding, kind of what the options are for the final blend.
Oh, we're at 197.95 for the people on this program. This is how many cases are you making at this time?
I think the 2021 was 332 cases.
Cool.
And it ranges from, I think that's pretty much the lower end of the production, except for the 2014, which was kind of like a friends and family kind of deal.
Mhm.
I think we're up around 425 for the 2024, so in that range is where we are. Great.
And I appreciate you guys being here. We're going to taste the wine now with our audience, and I'll share some feedback with you guys later.
That's great. Ian,
Everybody, please enjoy.
yeah, Ian, thanks so much for the
Ian, thank
opportunity.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thank you both. Really great to see you again.
All right,
Great to
likewise.
see you too. Happy holidays.
Such a nice couple and great story. Love the label. Love this wine. If you're into How Mountain Cabernet, I mean, it does take another angle. When we're on the valley floor, there's a plushness and a silkiness and a depth that is really fun to explore. You go to How Mountain, you're going to get this minerality plus that's coming from basically the there's like a gray volcanic ash that is really kind of guiding the Cabernet varietal here. You can smell it in the nose. You can feel it. It's another tannic element, kind of like you're wringing it a little bit hard and getting some of the harder tannins to really play a role. But Celia tames it and makes it so much fun. And so it's so silky and it's kind of like this iron fist of fruit. And really I don't like the cliche so much, but the velvet glove approach, just taming it and tenderizing it and coaxing more out of it. It's not just gravel. A lot of How Mountain caps are just so monodimensional, and this is so flashy. I think the 99-point score is very well deserved, and I love this wine. It's a little less expensive than maybe a lot of its high tier peers. I think they feel like that price point gives them a little bit more opportunity for people to discover it. They're new, and they're making one wine, less than 500 cases. So they're pretty much just focused on California as their primary market. I know they've got other things happening around the country, but this is where they're going to sell most of it. And I dare someone to find, I mean, there's maybe wines you might like better here and there. Maybe the price points are similar and stuff, but $200 a bottle, this is a home run. And it's a lot of money for someone to drop on a bottle of wine. So you better have a good story. This one's got it. This one's got only 400 cases made, very limited. And this is the kind of wine I like to turn people on to. And I'm sure some of you maybe have heard about it or seen it or read, because it's gotten so many good scores over the past couple of years. But this new 99-point iteration is just truly remarkable. And by the way, every other reviewer gave it between 97 and 99. So it's a really high pointed wine from multiple sources. I think that should cover it unless you guys have some questions or comments. I'd love to hear what you think about this one, Mr. Morris.
It was nice. It was much more approachable than a lot of Howell Mountain cabs I've had. I enjoyed it. I will say probably the Venge, if I pronounced it correctly, that was my favorite. That was a very beautiful wine. Deep, incredible concentration, but still an elegance to it. So very fun, but a very nice wine from Howell Mountain, and a little bit more approachable, in my opinion, than a lot I've had there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it was almost painful for me to put this wine after the Venge. But I do think that there's just a couple more elements of of terroir that are taking this wine into a little chewier direction, just in comparison to the Venge. And so you couldn't put this in front of the Venge, or maybe you could. I guess you could argue which way it should go. The Venge is about $50 more per bottle, but it is such a lovely bottle of wine. So they're both amazing, and I don't mean to split the, to ask people which one you like the best. It just, as long as you found something that you like tonight, that's my goal, and maybe something that you want to come back for, little special occasion, something. Some people can pack away a 6-pack of this to see how it evolves over a decade, and some of us have to buy it one bottle at a time and say, hey, that's the one I'm going to put my money on, and I'm going to be drinking that for this day, type of stuff. So I like to show a range of price points. Everyone's got a price that makes them feel comfortable. Tonight the wines were really special, and I want to thank all the producers for giving us the time to record with them. I want to thank my team for helping us put it all together fairly quickly. I got back on Sunday. We've videotaped pretty much all day on Monday with the different wineries, and made up all these kits and got them out. And then some of those kits are still being delivered. So this video will be ready and posted on YouTube. Now, we used to post these videos on Facebook, but recently Facebook took a pretty hard stance against the selling of wine. It was always kind of in the gray area whether we could do it or not because of marketing and social media rules, talking about alcohol. But they've really shut that idea down on Facebook anyway. And YouTube is the great unknown. We can do pretty much anything we want there. But at least for now, let's hope that stays the case. So we'll be posting these. In fact, in future months, I'm going to be going live on YouTube so that the video is even available even faster. Because at the current rate, what we do is we take this video, wait for it to download, and then upload it to YouTube. So it'll be usurping that extra work, and it'll be a little bit more efficient, although my designer won't get to edit it before it goes up. So that's where we're at in the process. We've got Zooms scheduled out for the next several months. So if you look at Zoom into Wine, we're into April right now. I've got some really cool topicality, some great wines in store, and I hope that you'll find something there that will bring you right back to join us again. I apologize also for being a little bit slurry and tired. It's not because I drank all day. I wish I could blame it on that. It's just I am absolutely out on my feet with a little bit of jet lag, as I stated, but well worth it. Had the time of my life with a great group of people in Barolo. And then before that, on the anniversary of my marriage to my wife, we drank champagne, stayed in Jacques Selos's hotel, and had some magnificent appointments. I'll be posting a lot of that content on social media. If you're following me out there, you'll see it all. And I'll have some more stories to tell in the weeks to come. Thank you all. I hope you have a great December. I'll be back next week with Barolo versus Brunello, a great showcase tasting, and some more fun after that. Take care, everybody. Have a good week. And don't forget, go Dodgers.